This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we're sneaking onto Cobra Island so we can look at the Cobra Night Creeper, part of the G.I. Joe Classified series. On the side, we just see some artwork of the Night Creeper. I'm trying to figure out how that sword is positioned across him, though. On the back of the box, we get a product shot. Not sure what's going on in the background there, but it looks like somebody's in trouble. So anyway, let's go ahead and open this sucker up, shall we? I do like that the new boxes here have this little tabby thing to make it easier to pull out the, at least the insert, if not the entire plastic. So first off, our Night Creeper has a rather unique head, I feel like, for G.I. Joe, in that we have like the hard plastic head and then we have a rubberized portion attached to it to give this like hooded look. It's not a bad head sculpt. It's very plain though, so they don't have to put too much on there. Just the goggles, mask, and hooded helmet. There is a second head sculpt here. Just pop off the head. Oh, just take a look real quick. That's what the inside looks like. Which is a more... Oh, shoot. More tech head, I guess you could say. Not by much, but... I actually think I prefer the other one, though. And I'm not sure... I think this is the original head that they came with. I'm not sure where this design comes from. Maybe it's a comic thing, or maybe it's from a reissue where they modified it. So what's interesting to note, also, he's got a sheath for his knives, but they have little loops, which presumably would be for the swords that he comes with. Possibly, or it also looks like he's got spots on his backpack for the swords. So let's go ahead and try some of this stuff out real fast. First up, he's got twin curved daggers. There's a little loop at the end. I guess you could tie a rope to it or something. We will slide those in place. Now, my curiosity, of course, was the loop. But first, let's take a look. We've got sword number one, which just has kind of a, not a serrated blade, but kind of a wavy blade to it. I think there is a specific name for these, like a serpentine blade. I don't remember. Then we do have one that has a serrated blade, where it kind of looks like the teeth of a chainsaw. This is also the blade I think that's shown in the artwork. But, alright, so first up, does not fit in the loop. Also, does not fit in the loop. Unless you want him to look like this. And I'm going to assume nobody does. So that would go along with the idea that they just slide into the backpack here on the sides. What's kind of interesting though is it is like slide in from the side or the front, I guess you could say. and not just slide down into it, which I guess would be kind of hard, especially for this one. But we'll set the backpack aside for right now. He also comes with two different hands. One is holding a throwing star. I am thinking that this may actually be one of the hands that came with Storm Shadow. Though it may not be, because I think that is a different style throwing star than what Storm Shadow had. And what's kind of interesting and also kind of pointless. Okay, so he's got, we'll go with the slapping hand thing, but he's got a set of climbing hooks in his hand as well. Which, don't get me wrong, you can still use those as a weapon. I mean, obviously, if you hit somebody with a set of hooks or climbing spikes, it's going to hurt. But aside from that, like, it doesn't really, honestly, it doesn't really make much sense as a hand. I guess somebody probably patted themselves on the back for this, but not a fan. He's also got a crossbow. It holds some of the bolts. We did see more of them on the backpack. This definitely looks a lot cooler than the one that came with Scarlet. And presumably we can fit the extra bolt inside of here. It does in fact fit in there. There's a little groove on the front and a little slot you can slide into on the back. As far as holding it, works out just fine. Of course, putting the backpack on, I immediately knocked the sword out of place. Also, on the backpack here, it does appear that, if I can get this off of his hand now, there's these two little spots here that are like slots that would presumably match up with that, so we can also attach. Ugh. I love how when you try to put everything together, everything starts, all the other parts start falling off. This is one of the flaws, I guess you could say, with the G.I. Joe Classified series. But yeah, you can fit all that on his backpack. And as soon as you go to put it back on, you knock the swords loose again. So that would be our Night Creeper with all of his equipment attached to him. Looks pretty good. I mean, he's supposed to be a Cobra Ninja, different from the red ninjas and the blue ninjas. Articulation wise, we do have the ball joint in the head so we can spin it. This head, the kind of rubbery cloth look to it does keep it from spinning all around easily. You can force it, of course. You can look down a little bit. You can not really look up at all. Again, in order to get any further than this, you have to force it. So that brings us to our secondary head sculpt, which does not want to pop in place very well, which does actually allow us to look up and look down a little bit. And we can spin him all the way to the side without a hassle. Huzzah. Again, I'm not a big fan of that sculpt, though. I think this one looks better. On the arms, we can hinge it up. The shoulder pauldron is attached to the butterfly joint, however, so like I said, we do have the butterfly joint. It's a big butterfly joint, and the pauldron is attached to it, like I said. So it moves with the butterfly joint. But that also means that it can raise up quite a bit when you hinge the shoulder up and doesn't really hinder that bit of articulation. And I guess technically it's not attached to the butterfly joint, but attached to the pin into the butterfly joint. Sorry. which allows us to get a good spin in there. This is a very good design for this because that means that this does not interfere with the movement of the arm. And then we do have the standard bicep cut for G.I. Joe where we can spin that around in 360. We have the double jointed elbow, which does give us the better than 90 degrees and looks pretty good. Hand spins at a 360, and of course the usual G.I. Joe up and down articulation, kind of making it look like he's getting ready to play with himself. He is one of the male characters with the boob cut, which allows him to spin. And I'm not going to lie, this is probably the most freely that I have seen any of the male characters with a boob cut actually spin around. Usually they get stuck about here or here and barely move front and back. Since there's no ab crunch itself, he does have actually a pretty good tilt, though. Again, I don't think I've seen that in any of the other male characters with a boob cut. On the other hand, it seems like that's making up for the super tight waist, which we can eventually get to spin all the way around. It too is on a ball joint, so you can spin it and rotate it and wiggle it. You can wiggle all about. Yeah, look at that body movement. Take it off. Take it all off. I mean, anyway. We do have the drop down hips for a little bit of added posability. Thigh cut, which spins us in a 360. Double jointed knee gives us a better than 90. A lot better than 90. We still got the boot cut, and the boot does have like the little shin guard that goes above the cut itself. I do like those actually. We have the hinge at the foot and the spin, which once more does help us with articulation. Or it could look like you've just given him a broken ankle. He can hold his dagger. I know there is actually a purpose for this kind of curve in the blade, but I cannot remember what it is. Aside from maybe being like a fillet knife or a skinning knife for a fish. We've already put his crossbow in his hand. Let's go ahead and sword him up. I doubt that he would be wielding both of these swords at one time. Dual wielding swords is not the easiest thing to do. I do actually like both designs. This one's kind of a bit goofy and looks like the sort of thing you'd find in the mall. So, yeah, it looks like a mall sword. This one actually does look like something you might actually use for practical reasons. Just not sure what those practical reasons would be. So we can swap out his hands. Throwing star. Slapping hand with climbing claws. This is just one of those things where I feel like this would have made more sense if we'd gotten two of these. And in all truth, when you use that sort of a thing, your hand's going to be more in this kind of a position because you're going to want to have some of your fingers kind of going on the top of this to help hold it in place. If you've ever actually worn those before, you'll know what I'm talking about. And from the 80s, we have his file card. Code name Night Creeper, Cobra Ninja. Captured Cobra documents revealed the existence of a contract between Cobra Commander and a syndicate of high-tech ninjas. It is believed that these so-called Night Creepers have been given the task of conducting all field intelligence and covert operations for Cobra. That means that these guys aren't actually Cobra, but a subcontractor. All investigations into the structure and origin of the Night Creepers have run into dead ends or resulted in the mysterious disappearance of the investigators. Quote, all evidence seems to indicate that the Night Creepers have the drive and scruples of a Wall Street stock manipulator, the lethal skills of a master martial artist, and the stealthy talents of a cat burglar. To make matters worse, they're backed by the latest and most sophisticated anti-detection and weapons technology in the world. It's as if Attila the Hun had a black belt, an MBA, and was armed with lasers. That's kind of a stupid comparison. For one thing, Attila the Hun, I don't think was known for his subtlety. So overall, I like this figure. I think it's cool. I don't have an original Night Creeper, though I did notice going through my file cards that I do have an Arctic Night Creeper, which seems kind of a weird thing. But I didn't dig it out because I didn't consider it to be close enough to this to make the comparison worthwhile. And that would have been actually looking for it, and I was feeling a bit lazy last night. So aside from the ridiculousness of the hand with the little climbing claw thing, I think overall this is actually a really nice figure, and I wish I'd gotten multiples of them. For whatever reason, this is like the first time a Cobra Troop Builder came out that I was able to pre-order that I did not get at least two, which is really stupid when you consider we have the extra head. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I hear all that stuff helps with the algorithms, and God knows I could use all the help I can get. Peace and love.